Hi everyone, it's Rax. Boy, do I have a doozy of a video for you today. I have been spending the entire last week studying Path of Exile 2. And for those of you that have been following me from the Diablo games, you know that I have a Diablo sheet where I calculate essentially everything and I make spreadsheets on how to power up and how to level as fast as possible. Well, I thought I would expand this sheet, of course, to Path of Exile 2 because this is probably going to ruin my life. I've already said goodbye to my friends and family. So what I've been doing for the last week is trying to be a student of the game and I've made tons and tons of notes here of a bunch of things about the game where whether you have played Path of Exile before or not, I think this avalanche of information may help you decide if you would like to play it or not, and if it's worth buying the early access and how do you even get it. So, I mean, this is enough talking. I'll link this sheet to you down below. Honestly, if you want to close the video and just read the sheet, you can. But I will update this sheet always. The more that I know all the way into the launch of the game, whatever I know about the game, the best leveling strategies. I don't know if we're ever going to have enough information to actually make a tier list, but if we ever do, I'll make that. And I'm also going to make this tab called the POE2 definitions. I believe they're going to have definitions within the game, but I'm going to make my own here if you'd like to read it in plain English. And I'm still working on this. It's not perfect. But anyway, so what I thought I'd do instead of just sitting here with a stupid spreadsheet, we'll play Path of Exile gameplay in the background while I cover all the basics of the game. Real quick, tomorrow we're doing another drawing for a PC from the Crimson Market. If you're subscribed here, you can get a God tier PC every month. You see this thing that's spinning in this Spiritborn PC that they've custom built? That's a real diamond with a sheet, official real thing. So it's going to be a God tier PC. If you would like to enter the drawing, you want to enter with the golden ticket. Gives you free points, no obligation, cancel whenever you want, but most people stay in because as you accumulate points, you can win these God tier PCs all the time. You know, Woody actually won one of the drawings a couple months ago, so he won a God tier PC. So use the golden ticket, subscribe. We're doing the drawing on my stream tomorrow. All right, that's enough of an intro. Way too long of an intro. Shout out to Crimson Market. Really excited for this drawing. Let's watch some Path of Exile gameplay and let me tell you everything that I've found out about Path of Exile 2. Okay, so first of all, I guess let me start with something that isn't in the spreadsheet. A lot of people are wondering what Path of Exile 2 is going to feel like. Some people play PoE 1 and love it. Some people played PoE 1, hated it. Some people have never played PoE. Well, the base difficulty of the game in terms of playing the game, moving around, killing monsters, and winning is going to be more difficult. The monsters are going to vehemently try to kill you. Grinding gear games is going to pose challenges that I don't think anybody in the world is going to be able to just one-shot them all freely. You are going to be challenged and you are going to have to solve your resistances, your defense, your damage, probably all of it multiple times in order to get through the entire game. Now, one issue that Path of Exile 1 was plagued by is the barrier to entry was way too high. The game is very complicated. The game is very bloated if you're starting very late. There's so many league mechanics that if you start late and you see these gigantic tree after gigantic tree after gigantic tree, you don't even want to play. So Path of Exile 2 has simplified a lot of these systems tremendously, which we will go over here in a moment. So playing the game and understanding what to do and how to craft and how to build your character, all of that almost universally is going to be easier. So it's going to be much more of a challenge in gameplay than it is in building your character. And of course, there's going to be a million excellent content creators. Maxroll as one of the strongest POE2 teams I've ever seen. Go to Maxroll and check out the team page. We have a bunch of godly people there. We will have you covered. So think of it almost like a Souls ARPG. It's all about gameplay here. Okay, so how do we play this? When does it start? How much does it cost? Let's get into some basic info. Path of Exile 2, the early access starts on December 6th. And in order to play the early access, you have to pay money in one form or another. By the way, I have a ton of free codes that I'm going to be giving away on my stream in the next few days. So if you want to, stop by and you might win one. I have at least 10 codes, maybe 20 codes to give away. But there are two ways, I believe, to enter the early access. The first is if you have a lifetime spend of, I believe it's $480 in Path of Exile 1, you're in, as a thank you for your support over the years. The other way is to buy a supporter pack on pathofexile.com. And the cheapest one is $30. Now, if you decide to not buy these packs, the game will come out essentially sometime in 2025. Jonathan Rogers said he estimates it's between 6 to 12 months after the early access when the game will actually launch. So that would be halfway through 2025 to the end of it. So if you just want to wait, you absolutely can. I think it's a reasonable assumption on the first day that the servers will be on fire. There will be bugs. There will be problems. They said in the post launch or the post cinematic interview that there's going to be problems. So it's not a terrible idea to wait until launch, because then there's going to be many months of testing and polishing and you get a better product. But at the same time, we ain't got no time for that. We can't wait. We need to play Path of Exile right now. So those supporter packs, they also have coins that can give you cosmetics and microtransactions and stash tabs, which will help you in the game. So it's not like you get nothing for the $30. You actually can get cool stuff along with it. I bought the most expensive pack just to support Path of Exile. I didn't even need to. I already had a key, but if they're going to keep making games like this, then I'm just going to keep supporting them. It's that simple. So anyway, Path of Exile on the early access, Path of Exile 2 is going to have 3 acts. There's going to be 6 on launch. There's going to be 6 base classes. There will be 12 on launch. And there's going to be 12 available ascendancies. There's going to be 36 on launch. So what the hell is an ascendancy? In Path of Exile, when you start as your character, as you get into the end game, you choose to ascend into a super version of your character. So for example, if you start as the Mercenary, which is kind of like the FPS character, you can ascend into the Gemling Legionnaire, which is going to focus on skill gems and resistances and attributes. Or you can be the Witch Hunter, which is going to be about like elemental shields and disrupting enemy attacks. And this Ascension thing is a big deal. It's a huge, huge part of the game, and it will dictate how your gameplay goes. And one thing to understand about the Ascendancies is, I believe, currently there is no way to change it. So it is a big decision that you are committing to on this character. At least that's what I've heard. By the way, I should have said this in the beginning. Anything and everything that I say in this video could be completely wrong. In fact, if anybody knows for sure that anything that I say in this video is wrong, just post it. I'll give it a heart. I'll pin it to the top. I'm giving you the info that I know on an early access game that I've never played before. So I did the best research that I could, but I'm not always going to be right. But anyway, I as far as I know, I do not think you can change your ascendancy currently in the game. So it's a huge, huge decision, and it matters a lot. We'll get more into that later. So a couple of more things about buying these supporter packs. Anything that you have bought, the cosmetics and the stash tabs from POE 1, they're going to transfer over, and it should work cross-platform, except with PlayStation. Everyone's real mad at PlayStation. PlayStation wants their cut. Anything dealing with PlayStation, I believe the stash tabs will move, but the cosmetics won't. That's how I understand it. People are real mad about them because everything else is working cross-platform. But if you want to switch from PlayStation to PC and you really want your microtransactions, looks like you're going to have to buy it twice. Maybe if enough people complain about it, maybe we can get this reversed, but probably not. A couple of hints. Path of Exile often has sales on the stash tabs. I think they happen like once a month. You should buy all your stuff then. It's cheaper. Another hint that someone gave me is if you wish list cosmetics that you like on the site, you'll get an email when they're on sale. Okay, you can get them cheaper. The final hint is never buy individual points, always buy supporter packs. They give you the same amount of coins and you just get free extra cosmetics. So if you've never bought stuff from Grinding Gear Games, if you're wondering if you should buy the early access, that's what you should do. Buy a supporter pack. Beware of PlayStation not playing nice with anything else. And in the sheet, I'll have all the links that you can click on very easily where you can buy them and an early access FAQ and all that stuff. Okay, now let's talk about some general improvements to Path of Exile 2 that's different from Path of Exile 1. The first thing is they've added WASD movement. So maybe a lot of people, I played WASD on WoW for 10 million years. So that kind of movement scheme is beloved by a lot of players. And I think it's going to really help with classes like the Mercenary, that first person shooter. I think it's going to give you a ton of control. That's huge. Another thing that they've added for all of the people in PoE 1 that could never figure things out is they've added a recommended like support gem feature within the game. And I can't tell you how much that's going to help people, especially because it looks like Grinding Gear Games, from the things that I've seen, have picked pretty intelligently. The fact that they're going to give you a recommendation, and there's so many support gems, and they're going to hide all the other stuff. If you just want to build, if you just want to get in there and play something and take what they're advising you to do, that's going to help a lot of the more casual gamers that don't want to spend their lives researching the game get involved in Path of Exile 2 and really enjoy it. I love this feature for those kinds of players. They added a dodge roll, and here's what I understand about the dodge roll so far. You can use the dodge roll to animation cancel. So Path of Exile, again, they're going to challenge you, right? So if you start up a big attack and you're going to die if you finish the attack, you can dodge roll out of it and animation cancel it. And it does look like it can provide you some kind of immunity, some kind of iframes for projectiles and strikes, but you cannot do it outside of AoE attacks. So AoE attacks are going to hit you. That's how I've understood it in talking to different people and how I think it's going to launch for early access. But Path of Exile has stated that all of this is kind of up for debate. They're going to have to see how it feels for everybody, decide if they're going to change it. Like, is it going to be like Elden Ring, where if you dodge perfectly, you can actually dodge every attack? Probably not, but we'll see how that goes. Another change, another significant change, as you can see in a lot of this footage, is the graphics are just infinitely better. Like the PoE's graphics are like from the 1800s, from the Stone Age, and this graphical engine is, I mean, probably best in the ARPG space. So dramatic improvement there. One thing you'll notice here on the bottom left, actually you won't notice it because my webcam is blocking it. There's only two flasks, life and mana. And that's it, other than maybe certain uniques like change them. But in general, one button for healing, one button for mana. It's that simple. In Path of Exile, you had 5 flasks and you were constantly playing piano tiles with it. And a lot of the flasks actually became utility. They actually became things that had nothing to do with life and mana. They were run faster or cure your curses or cure freezing. You can choose 3 of these. I believe they're called charms. And those are going to solve your ailments for you automatically based on how you choose them and how you craft them up. Maybe you'll switch them out for certain bosses. This is incredible. I don't think anybody likes playing 5 buttons for utility stuff. And the fact that they're automating a lot of it is just going to bring so many more players to it and such a huge quality of life. I love that they did that. More quality of life. The links and the gems, as we just saw there, on the window, are simplified. They're now part of the gem itself rather than a part of the gear. if you have ever played Path of Exile 1, and even if you're a great Path of Exile 1 player, I'm sure hundreds of times you finally get the links that you want and you put in all your gems, and then you get another upgrade and you want to move the gems over. Oh, but you can't because then this other link doesn't exactly work with your setup and you're sitting there trying to figure it out. Or you accidentally leveled a gem too high, and now that you swapped out a pair of gloves, you lost 10 strength, and now you can't equip it anymore, and you don't know the proper way to de-rank your gem. You can't remember where to buy the gem, and when you do buy the gem, it's level 1. You can't remember what vendor has it leveled up. And then you're like, okay, how do I solve this in my passive tree? I'm not exactly near a 30 strength note. It's just a nightmare. It's just a nightmare. So now that everything is attached to the gem itself, it makes it so much easier to actually build out your skills and also to switch them around. One design change that I have not tried, but as I think about it, I think will be excellent for the game is that only one type of support gem can be used in your entire build. So, for example, one thing that it seems to be godly on almost every single gem is faster attacks. Oh, I put faster attacks on my main skill. I put faster attacks on my shield charge. I put faster attacks on my leap slam. I just put faster attacks on everything. That actually takes away from the game, right? Especially since you get faster attacks right at the beginning of the game. That takes away from actually making really cool builds. So faster attacks might be godly, but you have to choose where it goes. I actually think it's going to be a great thing for the game. I honestly think a lot of the things that grinding gear games decided to do seem to make a lot of sense to me. One thing to understand is gems can be tied to certain weapon types. So if you're playing a warrior and you want to do like the big, slow, slammy skill, that might be tied to a mace. Or it might require you to have a certain number of attributes before you can use the really powerful skills. So hopefully we can avoid like kind of the booby trap that we had in Path of Exile 1 that I just described with the attributes. But in general, it should be way easier to interact with and build out your characters. They added another resource called Spirit, which is used for your summons, your minions, your auras, anything like that's persistent on your character, any of the meta gems. So it's nice because what you were constantly playing with was reserving your mana or even reserving your life in order to use your skills. And it was actually a cool problem to solve. I actually think Path of Exile 1 does a nice job of it. It's risk versus reward, especially when you're playing hardcore. Then it gets even more interesting. But the fact that they just make a separate resource for it, I think will feel good as quality of life. And again, it will be so nice for new players getting into the game. Gold is going to be the main currency of the game. For the longest time in Path of Exile 1, I believe gold wasn't even in the game. And the currency was mostly based upon the orbs that people would trade. And that's actually really cool. You know, it's cool to kind of like in Diablo 2, you're trading how many Ist runes for this? Do you have a high rune? And even the high runes had some variance in how much they were worth. But no, we're going straight to gold. Everybody understands gold. Very interesting thing about Path of Exile. As far as I know, or Path of Exile, when I say Path of Exile, I mean Path of Exile 2. Everything in the game, everything is tradable. Final, Uber, Pinnacle, Boss, Ultimate, God Sword, tradable. But the only thing that you cannot trade is gold. And gold is kind of like the life force of your account. You know, it lets you, for example, respec your character, among other things. So gold is super valuable for playing, and yet you can't trade it. This seems like a super excellent dynamic. Seems like it'll be really good. The $1 million question, this plagues Diablo 4. I'm guessing it's going to plague Path of Exile 2. I'm not a historian here. I don't know how this has really gone for grinding gear games. But the problem that Diablo 4 constantly faces is RMT, real money transaction. People just buying the best shit. You know, if you're a really good player and you race to world first and you find the greatest sword ever off the pinnacle boss that nobody can even kill, I mean, it's tempting to go on the black market out there and to sell it for $1,000 if you can. I've heard that Grinding Gear Games is really good at banning for that stuff, and that's all we can hope for, I guess. In the game, there will be a guide that I guess is just going to teach you the game. The best example I can give you is Last Epoch. If you played that, their in-game guide is absolutely godly, one of the best in the industry. So, very happy for that. Your weapons. So you may not know this, but you have two weapon slots that you can interchange between during battle, and those can have different passive tree paths. So, for example, you could use one weapon to clear out the map, just murder all the small little monsters, and then switch to a big ass mace for the boss with a different actual tree, and then, give him the business and he's dead. They have overhauled the crafting system. I mean, that's going to take another million-year video to explain, but it's simplified. And you can craft way more often. And it's also harder to fully brick your items. So you're going to be crafting, you should be crafting multiple times in the first act. If you aren't, then the game is going to be too difficult for you and you're going to get shit on. So it's not going in with the currency is so rare and should I craft on this or not? You should. It's okay. You can get more currency later. It's supposed to drop very often. They have said in their interviews that from the play testing, they have only increased it. They want you to engage with the systems. And as you do it more, you're going to be more comfortable with it. It's going to get easier and easier. The skill tree itself, which you just saw for 2 seconds, has been simplified. And the way that they have done it is they've removed the life nodes, and all the damage nodes should make sense as you venture in your part of the tree. So that means 2 things. First of all, it's way easier to interact with the passive tree when all of the damage nodes are designed to be pretty good for you. So even if you path completely suboptimally, everything that you would have taken will still be great for you. So it's not going to penalize you as much. In Path of Exile 1, if you path the wrong way, you could literally lose massive, massive multipliers of damage and just feel like a complete noob. The other thing is they took the life nodes out, but what does that actually mean? Well, in Path of Exile 1, even on a softcore character, almost every build has to decide how much of your skill tree do you allocate to life and defense. And it's probably more than you might think, even in softcore, because Path of Exile is a hard game. They're going to shit on you if you don't allocate defense. So there will, I believe there will still be defense in the tree, but the life nodes are gone. So you're going to get your life nodes, I guess, mostly from gear and your ascendancies and things, which again should make the game easier to engage with. So one very interesting topic is death in Path of Exile. So if you die, the bosses reset completely. This is not what happens in PoE 1. You can die and whittle them down, and then the boss eventually dies. Nope. You die, you got to try again. You die in hardcore, character's gone. Sayonara. In the end game, if you haven't played it before, when you're doing your maps, you go through a big like atlas. Now it's like an infinitely scaling world as you jump from map to map to map, which is like a really quick dungeon, for example. You have 6 portals to enter and come out through, like if you need to sell your loot. If you die in a map, nope, you lose it. It's gone. You're dead. You lost the map. You can't go back in. The pathing within the end game of walking to wherever you want to go, cut off. You got to go. You got to find a way around. Or if you die on all the nodes going to the main thing that you want to reach, you lose. And if you finally reach the thing that you want, you go in there and you fight the boss and you die, lost. It's gone. So they are really, really penalizing you for dying. So you're going to want to fight in the tier that you want, really build up your character. And high level, what does this mean? There are so many ARPGs where all you do is mindlessly stack up as much damage as you possibly can. And then you just put in a little sprinkle of defense, just enough to not get one-shotted. And you're going to take some deaths here and there, but it's kind of whatever. And then you play the game. Honestly, it's stupid as hell. I like the fact that it's so brutal to die in the endgame because it's going to force us to really actually think about your defense. And the nice thing is because we will be thinking like that, we probably will die a lot less often because we're so afraid of dying. Now, one thing that they are undecided on, it's still in the game right now, is will they carry over the XP penalty on death in Path of Exile 2? Because they're already penalizing you pretty severely for dying in the endgame. And I believe they said currently they have it in the game. And the reason why they have it in the game is mostly for the highest levels, like 90 to 100. The simple explanation they gave is someone who gets to 100 dying 50 times, have they achieved the same thing as someone who gets to 100 and only dies twice? And the person that only died twice is obviously going to get there faster. It makes like racing, for example, a little bit more interesting and puts an emphasis on defense. They haven't decided. That's what they explicitly said. It's in the game right now. They're undecided if it will stay, but you don't want to be dying in Path of Exile, at least in the end game. So we're going to have to, when we make our build guides, we're going to have to put a focus on defense. Logout macros are like an essential part of PoE 1. In PoE 2, all they do is pause the game. Log back in, you're where you were. So I love this change. I mean, I think everybody universally agrees logout macros are stupid. I'm glad that they're essentially dead. There's a new mechanic blocking, but it's actually blocking. So when you have a shield and someone's throwing a projectile at you, not every attack is blockable, but you actually put your shield down, put your shield up as an action and block it. It's an active thing. So that's cool. They changed some things with accuracy. Accuracy is based on your distance to the target. So being far away, your accuracy goes down. Being really close, your accuracy is very good. So melee should have an advantage here. It's about time. Melee always gets screwed on everything. And that's why you see in some of the ascendancies for the range classes, I think one of them for one of the ascendancies was you can't miss, which is going to be a huge boost. Okay, so that was a lot. God, there's so much more to cover. Okay, I'm going to try to speed up here a little bit. This video's getting too long. Let's talk about the end game. We already said ascendancies are hard locked. I'm looking at my sheet here. When you ascend, there are 4 trials that you have to do. And Ziggy D has a great video on this, by the way. I watched it this morning if you want to watch the full video. But I can explain it to you in 2 seconds. So there are 3 different kinds of trials. There is the Sanctum, which is like kind of like a cerebral room-to-room risk versus reward way to ascend. And then there is Ultimatum, which is kind of like locked into a gladiator arena and you just fight. And you pick like buffs and banes. It's like a roguelike kind of experience. And then there will be a third way that we are not familiar with yet. Grinding Gear Games will release it later. So there's 3 different options: Sanctum, Ultimatum, and whatever the third option is. And then for all 3 of them, there are 4 tiers of difficulty. Tier 1, 2, 3, 4. What you need to do is you need to clear any of the 3 at each tier. So, for example, let's say you love Sanctum. Okay, you do Sanctum Tier 1, and then Sanctum Tier 2, and Sanctum Tier 3, and Sanctum Tier 4. Every time you clear one of those tiers, you will get 2 points in your Ascendancy, and then you'll get to put 8 points in your tree, and you'll be a million times stronger. You're looking at an Ascension tree, I believe, right here, right? But let's say you want to mix and match it. you want to do Sanctum on the first tier, and then you want to do Ultimatum on the second tier, and then you want to go back to Sanctum for the third tier, and then you want to do the new thing on the fourth tier. As long as you do one of the three at each tier, you're going to get your 8 points. And Ziggy D's advice in his video, which I think was very, very good, is first time playing through Path of Exile, just do them all at all tiers. Just have fun with the game, man. Just play them all. You're only going to get the passive, you're only going to get the ascendancy points for the first clear at each tier, but at least you'll have some fun. I mean, why not? So then in the endgame system, you're going to have this infinitely scaling mapping system. So that might sound intimidating. It's going to be fine. Just get in there, start clearing some maps. You're going to see points of interest. You're going to see surprises. And it's got tons and tons of things for you to do. Now, it wouldn't be Path of Exile if they didn't have a million trees for you to fill in. You know, that's super intimidating. That makes you want to Alt F4. But they did something that I think is going to make things a lot easier for people. What they have right now for the endgame tree is a gigantic tree with like 1,000 nodes that you just walk through, and you have to figure out how to select and navigate through that giant tree to pick all the endgame activities that you would like to do. Think of it like, I bet a lot of my audience are Diablo 4 players. Think about if Diablo 4 had an endgame tree that you could put points into that would allow you to buff up Helltide or Uber Lilith or Duriel or Nightmare Dungeons or the Pit or the Infernal Hordes. It's like that. Path of Exile will let you buff the different things that you like to do in the endgame with these trees. And instead of PoE 1 having it all one gigantic tree, they separated it. So now if you want to buff up Expedition, for example, you just go and you put your points into the Expedition tree. You don't have to navigate a massive tree and go find all the pathing to the Expedition nodes in order to play Expedition. So as far as I understand, the endgame trees go like this. First of all, there's just a general endgame tree, which just buffs the endgame generally anything that you would do. Then we have the expedition tree. You don't know what expedition is? You lay bombs everywhere. You blow stuff up and monsters come out, and then you kick the shit out of the monsters. And then you can sometimes get logbooks. And they open these huge maps, these huge mining missions, and you just lay bombs everywhere and blow it up. And sometimes you blow up craters and you go into like boss rooms down there. I love Expedition. It's a lot of fun. Then we have Ritual. I believe Ritual is where you activate this little shrine, and then all these monsters come up. They rise from the dead, and you're locked in, and you got to kill them. And then you can keep doing the rituals and keep killing the monsters. And then you get currency for that. And then you can spend that and get a lot of rewards. Then there's Delirium. I call this gray peacock. They say it's a mirror. It's a gray peacock. I mean, just look at it. I don't know why they call it a mirror. This summons enemies all over the map as you play it. Gives you really good rewards. There's Breach. You open up a breach, it expands out, and you got to kill as many enemies as you can as fast as possible. Then, of course, there has to be a bossing tree. And they said some of these pinnacle encounters are some of the most difficult ones they've ever designed. And they already have like Uber Maven and Uber Cirrus in PoE 1, which a lot of people find extremely challenging. It's the way they were talking about it. They're saying these pinnacle encounters are even more difficult. And remember, you can't die. If you die, you lose your chance. So it's going to be very interesting to see what's coming out. And they said there will be many, many more endgame mechanics besides this. But remember, going into the end game, it probably will be a really good idea to put points into the general tree. And then it's simple. You just pick whatever you like to do. What do you want to do? You want to lay bombs everywhere? Pump the expedition tree. You want to do gray peacock, delirium? Do that. Play your own way. That's the way Path of Exile goes. Now, The trials here, this is the ultimatum trial that we're seeing that I talked about earlier about ascending with the different tiers. This right here in the end game, they will have an end game version of the trials that I assume are going to have great rewards, but there's no tree for it. Finally, something that we don't have to fill in a tree for. Talked about needing to find the correct pathing. We talked about dying in a map closes it forever. Someone asked the question, what if you die so much that you literally lock yourself in the map and you can't expand? I believe there is an option to reset it. If you completely brick it, you can reset it and start over wherever you start. And so that's good that they thought of that. And another general question is you can, of course, juice the maps. You can pump them up and make them extremely hard for better rewards. One cool thing that they announced that DM asked them was, are the pinnacle bosses static? So they have 4 tiers to them, 1, 2, 3, and 4. But can you further juice the pinnacle bosses? And they said no. And I think that that is actually fantastic. And the reason why is it sets like a maximum difficulty for the game. So if I say, hey, I killed tier 4 Jim Bob, whatever the hell the pinnacle boss is, Jim Bob. I killed tier 4 Jim Bob. That actually means like a definite thing, right? You know exactly what encounter I did. You know exactly what I have achieved. If you could further juice it on top of it, if I said I killed tier 4 Jim Bob, they'd still be like, oh yeah, what mods did you juice it with? Oh, I don't know. I just did the regular version. Oh, well, yeah, I killed Jim Bob last week and I made it a yellow Jim Bob key and it had all this other stuff. So I like the fact that they have that there seems to be a finite difficulty there. A quick note on the classes here that we can play within the early access. First, we have the Mercenary. I already talked about it. It's a strength and dex class. It's heavy inspiration from first-person shooters. They have different ammo types that have different effects and different elements. You can have a shotgun. You can have an assault rifle. You can have a sniper rifle. You can throw grenades. We have the Gemling Legionnaire. We talked about it earlier. It's focusing on skilled gems, resistances, and attributes. People are theory crafting this one's going to be god tier. Then we have the Witch Hunter, which is gaining elemental shields and interrupting enemy attacks. Remember, all of these classes will have 1 extra ascendancy. We get 2 in the early access per class. We're going to have 3 on launch. And remember, we only have 6 of the classes. We're going to have 12 on launch. It's a crazy amount of content when you think about it. We've got the Monk. It's an int and dex class. It's a highly mobile martial arts fighter. Honestly, probably my audience here, most of you are probably at least somewhat familiar with Diablo 3. It kind of looked like Diablo 3. They even dropped a bell on the ground. I don't know if that's a slap in the face to Diablo 3 or like kind of a thumbs up that they like the design. But they have lightning, ice, and wind elements. They use quarterstaffs. The 2 things you can ascend into are the Acolyte of Chayula. I don't know, did I say that right? You transform spirit into darkness. It gives you more chaos damage, mana leech, or energy shield. Or you can be an invoker, which further enhances elemental forces for additional damage, defenses, or status effects. So if you love the Monk in Diablo 3, they literally put it in the game, even with the Taco Bell attack. Got the Ranger, returns to PoE 1 dexterity class. The ranged attacker can move while shooting. Lightning, poison, ice, and physical damages. It uses bows. The ascendancies are Deadeye, straight from PoE 1. Additional projectiles. You move faster, more accuracy. And then there's Pathfinder, which is what I've been speedrunning in PoE 1 lately. By the way, I have a question for you guys. I've been learning to speedrun Path of Exile 1, and I took my PB. My PB was actually 459. I took it down to 347. If you'd like to watch me do a fresh run, no twink items, all labs, all points, all quests, and it kind of show you how I beat it in under 4 hours, let me know and I'll post the video. And if you don't, then I won't. Anyway, Pathfinder, the one that I'm playing, it buffs your flasks and it buffs poison to put in crippling ailments and to spread to other monsters. I'm playing a poison concoction Pathfinder, which is really nice for me because then I can call it Peacock. Anyway, back to the video. Sorceress here. They're an intelligence class. We know what a sorceress is. They deal magic damage, fire, ice, and lightning. They combine different elements with different weapon types to significantly improve their damage. I believe, oh, look at that. I mean, I actually think that was the monk right there. I was going to say that was a sorcerer, but this looks much more like the sorcerer. The other one was the monk. Um, they said that they've seen some of the best combinations actually combining the elements, and there's really cool stuff like you lay the firewall and then you shoot the frost bolt through it, turns it into like a frost fire bolt. But combining is what you're probably going to want to do and see, like getting the freeze and getting the burning at the same time. The ascendancies are the chronomancer, which can literally manipulate time. It can stop time, it can reverse time, reset your cooldowns. Kind of reminds me uh, of the Void Knight, right, from last Epoch. And then they also have the Stormweaver, which just buffs all things lightning. And you can get multiple stacks of shock to land on enemies. Shock, I believe, makes enemies take more damage. So there's going to be the lightning god version of sorcerers as well. I'm 100% going to make that. Warrior, this is what DM's been playing. It's a strength class. It's a slow and devastating melee fighter. Like, I guarantee Alkaiser's going to be doing that. Physical damage, mazes and shields for devastating slams, high defense. It can actually block. Remember, we talked about blocking being an active thing. The ascendancies are Titan, buffs two-handed weapons. You can slam and create aftershocks and stun enemies. And there's Warbringer, which is going to be your totem boy. It's going to be totems are going to become spirits, and they're going to buff all of your war cries. So it's going to be an interesting, that's like a very, very contrasting playstyle, which is cool. That's why your ascendancy matters so much. Then finally, we have the Witch. Intelligence class, this is your summoner. If you love summoner gameplay, some people, that's their favorite archetype in the world. You're going to go the Summoner Witch. Chaos and bone damage. You can have curses to weaken your foes. You can be the Blood Mage, where you're going to pay life to gain extra buffs and leech and healing and damage. Or you go to the Infernalist, you're going to gain a Hellhound for AoE fire damage. You transform into demon form, where you take damage in order to ramp up your cast speed and your damage output. So that is pretty much that's 113 pieces of info that I have been able to gather in the last week, consuming hours and hours of content from not only Grinding Gear Games themselves, but a lot of great creators out there. And by the way, am I allowed to say something? Holy shit, there is some content out there that is super dog shit. I guess this happened with Diablo 4 as well. But some content creators, oh my god, dude. Never mind. Let's keep it positive, boys. It's Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Okay, anyway, holy shit, though. Are you kidding me? Anyway, that's all I got, guys. So the sheet is there. I'll link it. The sheet has where to buy the early access if you want to buy it. It's got an FAQ in there. It's got all the info that I just shared with you. But the most important thing about the sheet is I will update it all the time. I kept the Diablo one nice and fresh. There's even patch notes. There's patch notes on my sheet. Okay. So you'll know if I've been in here fixing it. Anyway, that's it, guys. So I hope you're all excited for Path of Exile 2. The reason why I haven't been posting a ton of videos all week is because I wanted to make one good video rather than 5 shitty videos. I hope that this helped you. If you have any remaining questions, post them. And I mean, I got nothing to do this week except talk POE2. So you got questions, post them. I'll post the answers if I know them, or maybe other people in the video might know the answers and you can help me out. If I said anything wrong, please let me know in the comments, or if I missed a key point, I'll pin it up to the top or I'll give it a heart. I appreciate you guys. Really looking forward to this game. I think we're going to be playing it for years to come. Can't wait. Thank you.